All right, so today we're going to talk about a guy whose name, well, it's become synonymous with a really controversial, but you can't deny it, effective brand of justice in Kenya. His name is Ali Nuno Dubat, and, he's one of those figures who kind of operates in the gray areas. He's the cop they send in when everything else has totally failed.
I will come for them. Just let that sink in. These are the words that really define the man. It's not a suggestion, right? It's not even a warning. It's just a simple statement of fact. This is the promise he makes to the criminals he's hunting. And honestly, it sets the tone perfectly for everything we're about to get into.
So, let me paint you a picture. It's last February. A guy in plain clothes walks into the Kisumu police station. He looks like any other citizen, maybe in some kind of trouble. This guy is Ali Nuno Dubat, the Coast Regional Police Commander. And he's not just there to see how things are going. No. He's there to spring a trap on his own officers.
So what happens? The officer's on duty, they have no clue who this guy is, and they basically just blow him off. Big mistake. The consequences were immediate. Within hours, they were all suspended. And that one single act, it tells you everything you need to know about his philosophy. It's this signature mix of trickery and just sheer ruthlessness. The message to the rest of his force couldn't have been clearer. Adapt or you're out.
So, okay, we're on to Section 1, Forging a Ruthless Reputation and the War on the Gaza Gang. You gotta wonder, right? Where does a reputation like that even come from? Well, to really get who this guy is, we have to rewind. We're going back to the sprawling, chaotic streets of Nairobi's Eastlands, because that's where his name first exploded onto the national stage.
So, who was he up against? A group called the Gaza Gang. And listen, this wasn't just some group of petty thieves. We're talking about a fearsome, really organized crew of armed teenagers who were literally holding entire neighborhoods hostage. So when Dubat shows up in 2016 as the new police commander for Kariobangi, that's the absolute crisis he walked straight into.
His strategy for dealing with them was, it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. A real two-sided coin. On one hand, he actually offered a way out. Back in 2015, he brokered a public amnesty, and he convinced over 60 gang members to just give up their weapons. But for the ones who said no, the ultimatum was brutally simple, and he made sure everyone heard it.
And make no mistake, that wasn't just a threat, that was a promise. He was basically saying, I will defeat you in your own game. He went right after them, on their turf, playing by their rules. And this totally uncompromising stance, it just shattered the gang's entire structure. It freed Kariobangi from their grip, and bam, Nuno was suddenly a national hero. He was the cop who finally beat the Gaza Gang. If you look at his career, you see a really clear pattern emerge. After Kariobangi, he goes to Thika and Kiambu to disrupt gang recruitment. He even had this brief, kind of weird desk job in Nairobi in 2024, but he was sent right back into the fire in 2025. It's obvious, right? He is the guy the government sends wherever things are just completely out of control. And that brings us to where he is now, tackling the Panga boys on Kenya's coast.
All right, Section 2, the Nuno Doctrine, leadership by surprise. So, what really makes this guy tick? What's the philosophy that drives him? Because it's way more than just brute force. It's a calculated strategy, a whole doctrine really. And it's all built on one thing: catching everyone, criminals and his own cops, completely by surprise.
This quote from a retired senior officer who served with him, it just cuts right to the heart of Dubat's entire worldview. Criminals understand only one language: force. What that tells you is that he operates on the belief that, hey, when you're dealing with violent criminals, the time for talking and nuance is over. It's already failed. The only language they're going to understand is force.
And what's really interesting is that he applies that same intensity to his own people. His method is pretty simple, but man, is it effective. First, he does these direct field inspections. Just shows up unannounced to keep everyone on their toes. Second, he runs integrity tests, setting traps like the one at Kisumu Station to expose corruption or just plain incompetence. And third, brutal accountability. Immediate and harsh discipline for anyone who fails. For him, public safety starts with the disciplined police force.
And that brings us to Section 3, the new war on Kenya's troubled coast. So this is his current assignment. By 2025, he gets a big promotion to oversee the entire coastal region. And this place, it's a hotbed of all kinds of complex crime.
We're talking terrorism, drug trafficking, the works. But just as he gets there, a new and maybe even more chaotic threat starts to emerge. And that threat is the Panga boys. Now these guys are a totally different kind of enemy. See, unlike the Gaza gang, which was pretty organized, the Panga boys have a decentralized command structure. Their attacks are random, brutal, and their weapon of choice? Machetes, or pangas. They're basically just terrorizing the whole coastal region, and that creates a whole new kind of challenge for the police. So how does Dubat respond to this new, chaotic threat? You guessed it, with his classic, no-nonsense approach. On February 7th, 2026, he issues a blunt, televised shoot-to-kill order against any gangster wielding a machete. For Nuno, this wasn't some huge escalation, it was just business as usual. The battlefield was different, sure, but his rules of engagement? They hadn't changed one bit.
But look, it would be a huge mistake to think he's just a blunt instrument. The guy's adapting. For example, back in March 2025, he put together this massive multi-agency drug bust in Kilifi. They arrested 13 suspects. And what this shows is a shift in his strategy. He's learning to combine his signature brand of force with more coordinated, intelligence-based operations.
And all of this, of course, brings us to the big debate. Section 4. Justice or just force? The Dubat debate. This is the central question of his entire career, isn't it? Is what he does justice, or is it just force? Because his methods are, without a doubt, incredibly effective, but they are also deeply, deeply controversial. So let's just lay it all out. There are really two ways to look at Ali Nuno Dubat. His supporters, they'll tell you he delivers results when everyone else has failed. They'll say his name alone is enough to scare criminals straight and that he brings peace back to communities that were living in fear. But his critics, and that includes a lot of human rights groups, they'll tell you his methods are trigger-happy, that he violates due process and basically sidesteps the very laws he's supposed to be upholding.
And while that debate rages on, the state itself has made its position pretty clear. In 2018, he was awarded the Order of the Grand Warrior, the OGW, for his distinguished service to the nation. So to spend all the controversy, it seems his results have been officially recognized, and at the absolute highest level.
And that really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? For the gangs he's up against, the options have always been crystal clear. Disarm, get out of town, or die. As one analysis I read put it, quote, "There is no fourth option in the relentless biography of Ali Nuno Dubat. There never is. In his world, there's just no room for negotiation."
So all this leaves us with a really fundamental question. His story kind of forces us to face this uncomfortable dilemma about justice and security. And it really makes you wonder, right? When a society is being gripped by chaos, when it's pushed to the absolute brink, is someone like Ali Nuno Dubat not just an option, but maybe a necessity? Is ruthless efficacy the only answer? Something to think about.